The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome for another edition of the Table Topics. John?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for the reminder.
And we're not in Portugal, but we in Portugalia.
Exactly.
Right in Fall River.
Thank you. By the way, I feel like I'm back there. This reminds me of back in 19.
Soon, very soon.
I hope God. If
very soon.
They don't change the rules on us again, you know?
I probably will be there in February, getting everything ready, setting up the stage for a 30 people group visiting in Azores in June. But the reason that I want to set up today showing here, because as you can see, it's Christmas coming, and Portugalia sets up every year this nativity behind us, and we would at the town that all this was made.
Yeah.
This was in Lagoa.
Yep.
Remember the factory that we visit?
It has pottery and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all those small figures are made there. All the rest, it's made here, and it's people that come from Portugal and set up a couple of these scenes around between Fall River and New Bedford. I believe they have a couple of places in New Bedford that they set up the scenes too. But it's just a reminder, a reminder that of Christmas. And for people that are born here, really gives a little bit of the flavor.
Taste of Europe, right?
So, what's new, John?
I mean, same old, same old. We're starting a new week. We have a lot of news going on in the world, right?
A lot of news.
What I'm kind of interested in, but I don't think we're going to see much of it, is the Ghislaine Maxwell trial started today in New York. However, there's no media that's allowed in there, and very little of this news is going to come out because I guess the judge that's serving on that trial right now said that it's not good for us to know. You know what I mean? It's too graphic. What's also of interest is that same judge has been nominated to be a circuit judge in D.C.
Oh, really?
So isn't that interesting, right? So I'm interested to see. I listened a little bit this morning. It was just folks were outside the courtroom in New York. But other than that, we'll see what comes out.
How you think that can go both ways?
I don't really know, Carlos, because how are we to know what's going on if they don't let anybody in the courtroom? There's no media allowed in that courtroom. What's other of interest is that the prosecution, her name is Comey. I forget what I think it's Maureen Comey is the prosecutor for the feds. Does that name sound familiar to you at all? Comey? Yeah, that's James Comey's daughter. So it's crazy. It's craziness.
Yeah.
You know, we can't make this up. These are movie. You know, movie people couldn't even write this stuff down. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out.
Well, it's been like this past month. It's been like a court month. It's one after another.
One after another. Yeah. We had What's also interesting is we had the Kyle Rittenhouse trial that ended, and then we had the Ahmaud Arbery case that was also settled. And you know, this is just my opinion. They were both
the last
just
time
sentences.
the last show we did, the sentence was not out, so you were kind of you didn't know where that was going to end it. But
and
I guess.
Yeah, Rittenhouse was found innocent, and the three gentlemen from Georgia were found guilty. I mean, all you have to do is, if they have the video,
watch the video.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, the good thing about phones today, and it's that it can resolve a lot of crimes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and
And
how you gonna say you
he
didn't date
didn't
it,
do
or
it.
how you dated,
And-
you know, because it's on film.
Yeah, and the Kenosha thing with Rittenhouse, I think, you know, you had the video, you saw the kid running away. In this case, it was just the opposite. Those three gentlemen, these three men were running after him. So you can't claim self-defense when you're running after
and
them.
if my memory, if I can count on my memory going back, I believe it was just a mistake of identity. Like I think this person looked like somebody else.
Yeah, I read a little bit, but yeah, probably. I think they
Because
said
they
there
saw that there was robberies
Yeah,
on the
there were
neighborhood,
robberies
and
at
the
the
guy
area.
who looked
Yeah.
just like him or something like that. But
I get it, but you really, you know, shouldn't be chasing people with a gun. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you're not the police.
and it comes again, the problem with the gun. You know, just because you own a gun, that doesn't mean that you're going to make justice by your
you
hands.
can't- Yeah, just call the police. I mean, in the other instance with Rittenhouse, you know, basically he was running away from them. I really think that they targeted him because he was a kid. He was younger. They were 36 and 28. So if he was 18, they thought he was 18. He was a lot younger. I mean, a 36-year-old after an 18-year-old.
I don't have a problem with him after the fact try to defend himself.
Yeah.
I do have a problem with him going there.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
which is a different, a complete
he
different
probably
situation.
shouldn't have gone there. But
Exactly.
I think what happened is at that time when we saw things happening, the police were not able to protect that town
Mm-hmm.
or that city. They just couldn't do it. So people were going out and protecting businesses. That happened back in Los Angeles.
I
We had the
understand,
riots
but
back then.
after you make that movement,
Yeah.
don't come around saying that you try to defend yourself. I mean, if somebody's trying to rob your house,
Yeah.
you have 5 guys trying to rob your house. Your wife calls. Now you go there with the baseball bat, and they have a gun.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were you going to do? You know, I mean, you put yourself on that position. You didn't know if they had guns or not. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying is, after the fact, it's nothing you could do. Now you're in the middle of something, of a situation that you need to get out of life. So that's my opinion.
He should have been in there, but in the end, he was defending himself.
After he was, it's like when.
But
You know-
the thing is, Carlos, nowadays people try to make people seem like angels, and the three of those guys each had extensive criminal records. So I don't even know how some of them were out of jail, to be honest with you.
No, I agreed with you, but that didn't give the right for him to shoot him. If that was the problem, you know,
But if someone's running at you, you don't.
it was
run-
just a coincidence that the guys that.
But I don't think you ever run at somebody with a gun. You know, basically, if somebody has a gun and they're pointing at you, you tell them to put it down. If they don't put it down, my thing is I run like hell because I don't know what they're doing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just going to fast forward. Then there was another incident out in Wisconsin where a gentleman ran through a Christmas parade there. And,
Yes.
The headlines are pretty interesting in that case. I don't know if you've seen the headlines. SUV plowed through crowd. Car kills people.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's really interesting how
Yes.
the media plays some of these things.
The headlines. The headlines.
Yeah, the headlines.
Sells the paper.
Yeah, well, but I mean, the headline is car plows through SUV. Cars don't plow. You know what I mean? Cars don't drive through without somebody behind the wheel.
Exactly.
That man had an extensive record. He had just been put on bail for $1,000 for running over his ex-wife or girlfriend. And he's out on jail. 2 days later, what does he do?
So I believe he was running from the police.
No, that's false.
That's what I heard.
If you believe that the car plowed through people and it wasn't a human that did that, they tried to say in the beginning that he was arguing with someone and then he plowed through. Well, if that's the case, say it is the case that he's arguing with someone and he plows through the crowd, wouldn't you pull over? You know what I mean? Why would you keep on driving through that? So I don't think that was entirely true. You know, and this is what I find interesting is that they've looked through this guy's social media post, and it's not really favorable for him. You know, he actually said, "Let's go kill the old people," and those are the people he killed. The majority of them were older people in that dancing club. So, but unfortunately, as we see, the media is not going to tell the truth. They'll tell the truth with some instances, but other instances they're not going to tell the truth.
Yes.
And that's just how it is nowadays. You got to do your own research. That stuff was out there. I agree with you that it said that police were called because there was an argument, and he just then got into his car and ran through. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you pull off on the side of the road? The police were saying, "Stop! Don't come in here." It was something that was done on purpose.
Oh yeah, it was intentional. You know, I mean, it was definitely was intentional, and the sad part about too is include kids too.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
we have a few kids that died from that accident.
And a couple of them are on, like, you know, in critical condition right now. One little girl I had read is, I think, 11, and her kidney is of no use anymore because it got disconnected from that artery. So it's just sad. But again,
And I believe a 5-year-old was dead.
Yeah, a 5 or 6 year old, little boy was killed. Again, sad.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? We would, if this was a different instance, this would be on night and day. But it's kind of like they barely mention this dude's name. Will not talk about his background, what he's done, his history. He's trying to think. He's not a pedophile, but he's a sex. He should have been on the sex registry. He had an issue in the state of Nevada. But none of that stuff is put out there, and it's sad. You know, we need to call things how they are, whether people don't like to hear it or not. We need to call it how it is.
Yeah.
And I wish that they would have gone on, and some of these big networks go on social media and say what was on his post, what he was saying on his post, and then we have something happen like this. So, but anyway, that's my push.
And you know
today.
something, a lot of these crimes that going on, they kind of put on the media, on their Facebook pages, on their, you know, YouTube pages, whatever. You kind of have you know.
Yeah,
But do we have somebody looking it through this account?
Well, I think they even know, Carlos, because it's part of this problem is in San Francisco, where you saw all the big things that go into Nordstrom's. It's kind of like they put this out and like 50 people show up and steal. Well, in the city of San Francisco, a lot of Walgreens and CVS's have closed because people just go in there. They have a rule: if you steal under $1,000, you barely get a ticket. That's all you're going to get is a ticket. You're not going to get arrested. So what does that do? It makes it seem okay to do these things. So they've got to kind of rewrite these rules. I mean, I think the start of this was with good intentions. You know, some people that are poorer can't afford bail, and then people that are rich, of course, can afford millions of dollars to get out. So I understand that. But on the other hand, if you're going to have things where people can just get rid of a crime, can just do a crime and no, let me add this up, $9.99, I'm good. I can just steal all this and go home. It's not helpful, you know. So they've got to take some serious look at some of these laws that they put into effect. And I know that the same kind of thing is taking place in New York. And one last thing on this, what I found pretty interesting was with the thing in Wisconsin where the older people and the little kid got killed. The DA there said, we have to have these reforms. Will somebody get killed with these reforms that we're going to put in to make things equal? Yeah, but that's how it has to be. Well, I mean, again, that's great to say that, but if it's your kid or your mother or your father, that's not good.
Yes,
So we can't have, you say to make things equal, but somebody's going to die. That's not equal. So, and that's not justice as well.
Yeah. Let me bring you.
Yeah, bring me back.
Let me bring you back. Still courts. Yeah. We still on the courts, but let me bring you back. The famous Mayor Jason Correa.
Yes.
So he's going to get to spend the holidays. I will not be surprised. I already said this a couple of times. If he's going to ask the next request going to be Easter, because he wants to stay at Easter home and he wants to make the masa, the sweet bread for the family. So what is your?
this again, I think, is the whole, you know, I think now, because this is a federal thing, so we have, being lighter on criminals sort of thing going on, so it's not surprising. Personally, I think you're just putting off the inevitable, because if you're going to probably go to jail for like 3 to 6 years, you're going to be away on a couple Christmases. So I'd rather just get it over with and move on. You know what I mean? So, but like I said, it's a whole...
Well, now it's questionable if he's going to even get jail.
Yeah, I think he's still gonna, but I think he's just putting off the inevitable. He's turned 30. Now it's Christmas and the holidays. I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe.
So next thing, it's his wife's going to be pregnant, and now he needs to take care of the baby.
I don't know, Carlos. I think maybe in my mind, I'm thinking that you start it in January, and then by the time Christmas comes, you're already used to being in that environment. Maybe that's what it is. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt, but to me, it's just putting off the inevitable.
Yes.
So anyway. That's
one thing that I'm surprised is the judge, because at the beginning of this whole thing, we all felt like he was going to throw him the book, and now it's like it's been so soft to him. It's like,
well, it's been soft on everybody. It's funny because right before Christmas, I ran into someone, and they're from Fall River. We just hadn't seen him in a while, and he had just kind of said, I said, Fall River, it's the same. And he's like, yeah, a lot of people just, I guess crime pays, and relating to what had happened there. And it's true, most of the people got nothing, got no time at all. And I understand it was to go after supposedly the big guy, but in the
so
end,
the next one's going to be Jane Andrew.
Yeah, and I don't.
What started in a week, I believe.
Yeah, and I think what's going probably on with that is the judge when it's a public official like that, someone that's in office, they look at it. You kind of, you're losing the public's feeling on positivity for the government, so. They kind of looked at it in that sense. But we'll see what happens. Like you said, he's been light with letting him not report until January.
I believe now it's January 10th.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised because if everybody's is going to get out of this with no jail time, he's just going to send a message to everybody else that wants to engage on that kind of,
no, you're right.
stuff.
And I think that's with all this. I think it runs in cycles, right? So during the 70s, the late 70s to probably like the 90s, there was a lot of crime in this country. We had a lot of, I know just from the late 70s to the early 80s, I must have had 3 or 4 cars stolen.
Yep.
Over the last 10 years, you don't hear of a lot of cars being stolen. So it's stuff like that happened, a lot more break-ins. But what happened was they became tough on crime. And it started in New York, where New York was like horrible in the 70s and 80s. And they had the broken window theory, and they really came down on things. And it changed. And now they figure, hey, it's, you're being too tough, So let's lay back. And now we're finding this crime coming back again, and there's a pushback. So it's always in cycles. I think that there's going to be pushback still to say, hey, we don't want to do this, but eventually people are going to have had enough and say, crime's crazy, let's do something, and then we'll go back on that cycle.
But remember one thing, everybody that's committing crimes today, they come after one thing, rights.
Yeah. Well,
I have the right to say it, I have the right to do it. And the only way they're going to find out if they really have that right or if they didn't broke that right is in front of a judge.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on now is people act and then try to defend themselves. When if you go years back, they would think before they act.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree. But you know what? This stuff happened in the 70s, Carlos, in New York. There were people that became somewhat of a vigilante on the subways. Because you go on a subway and you get mugged, and people in New York don't have cars, so some people became like vigilantes, saying, "You're not gonna. I've already been mugged 5 times. You're not gonna do it again." They took things into their own hands. So this, everything's in cycles. You know what I mean? And we're going through that cycle right now.
And I think this, remember probably on the 80s or 90s, an example, the smoking.
Yeah.
You had half of the restaurant smokes, and right behind you, somebody's smoking because he's on smoke area.
Yeah.
Then they cut all that. They said it's bad for your health, so they cut it off.
Yeah.
So they kind of took the right away, but nobody fighted for the right. That's my right to smoke.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I think a lot of people did. In the 70s, I was telling my wife about this. I remember in the late 70s, pretty much everybody in my family smoked. So they'd come over during the holidays, and it's probably there'd be 25 people. 5 of us didn't smoke, and it was mostly the kids. And they probably have the window open that much to get, but nobody complained about it. I remember working in offices that everybody smoked in there, and if you were not smoking, you're just used to it. You know what I mean? That's how.
But
it was.
now the 2020 with 2021, but starting on the 2020 is the marijuana, is the weed.
Yeah.
I mean, if you like that smell so good, keep your windows closed.
Yeah.
I don't have to smell on my car with my window open. I think you're violating my right because I have the right not. I don't want that.
Well, you smell it even when your windows are up, because if you have your
You smell it on the streets.
Walking on the street, I smell it every time I walk my dog. Every time.
And you know something, John? That's what I call is the skunk smell. Because when I came to this country, I only could have smelled that on the highway. That you had to close your window because it was a really bad smell. Now you just walk by.
Yeah, I don't think it smelled like it did in the 70s, to be honest with you. I really don't think it smelled like that. It had a different smell. When I first
You don't think
smelling,
this smells like skunk?
No.
Oh
I
my
think it smells
God.
like skunk, but it doesn't. Back in the 70s, it didn't smell like skunk. So when I first started smelling this, I actually thought there were skunks out.
Yeah.
Because I do have them around my house. I actually thought it was a skunk.
Yeah.
But because that's not the smell I remember smelling in the 70s and early 80s. Now it's more potent. So I guess that's where you get that skunk smell. But yeah, I mean, you're right. People's right. Everybody's rights. They're saying are being violated. If I have to smell this, then they're like it's legal, so I should be able to do it. I get it. There's got to be a happy medium,
But I think it's just the respect that's not there no more.
No,
it's the respect. Nobody has the respect for nobody else. And it's like just because I like it, that doesn't mean that I'm going to force on you.
But that's just how everybody is.
Oh,
nowadays.
screw my rights.
That's just
It's your right. You have a right to smoke, but and you give me the right to smell it.
Yeah, you don't know. You're right. I mean, but unfortunately that's how things are. It's gonna run in a cycle that hopefully people start getting a lot nicer to each other. But to be honest with you, with all the stuff going on in this world right now it's funny. Prior to Thanksgiving, right? Nothing, right? And I was listening to some podcasts and stuff that I listened to, and they were like, on Friday, something's going to happen. Watch, something's going to happen. And lo and behold, on Friday, there's now a South African thing of the COVID, a new strain, a new variant. That's the word, a new variant out of South Africa. But what I found really interesting was I read an article from the AP back the end of November, which was still on, probably about a week ago, maybe the 16th, from the AP that said Africa, they're trying to figure out what's up with Africa because they only have 6% of the cases there. So they've kind of been unscathed with this whole virus. And then all of a sudden, day after Thanksgiving, there's a variant out of South Africa.
Yeah. Well, and let me tell you this: on the news, was Portugal got 19 cases.
Yeah.
Already?
And they're shutting stuff down.
Okay. So the thing is, Portugal is 90% vaccinated.
Yeah.
90% vaccinated.
Exactly.
Okay. So when we still reaching the 40s, 50s, maybe.
Well,
I don't know on U.S. how is the last numbers of vaccinations.
I mean, the thing is, in the state of Massachusetts, right? I read yesterday, 70% of the people in this state are vaccinated fully. And I think 85% were, partially, so they probably didn't get the second shot.
Yeah.
But our cases are going up, right? No longer do you hear this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, right? Because that variant that started in South Africa or Botswana, all the people that they found the variant in, they had all been vaccinated. So, you know what I mean? You got to really do your research and not, you see a headline, but you got to go look in different papers and see. What I thought was a shame was on Friday, a flight left, I think, either Johannesburg or Cape Town and went to Amsterdam, Holland, right? People are sitting on the plane and they're like, no, a new variant came out. We don't know if we can let you off this plane yet. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
As long as
It's
you
like a
bring
15-hour
breakfast,
flight.
lunch, I will stay here.
Are you going to send them back? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
On a
yeah.
15-hour flight? So it's just the absurdity with all this. And I think one of the virologists in South Africa said, I'm really getting upset because it seems like it's very mild, this variant right now. So why are everybody hyping this thing up? And why are everybody talking about we might have lockdowns, which they're having in other countries right now? What I also thought was kind of funny is Australia. They detected the variant in Australia. Australia's been shut down. You know what I mean? You can't get in that country. There, New Zealand, you can't get in. How are we getting variants there a day or two after? So you just really got to watch the news and, you know what I mean, not watch the fear, trying to get fear in people. That's basically what's happening.
Well, I mean, if you plant the fear, people's going to be afraid, and people are going to do what they've been asked to.
Exactly.
Okay, so so that for some people works.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, right? And I know this probably happens in Portugal as well, but I have a friend that went to the Caribbean, and basically when they went there, they had to get tested before they left. They get into the country, they had to get tested again in the country. Then when they left the country, they had to get tested, fully vaccinated. So, like, why, if you have to do that, then to me, isn't it better to find out whether somebody has it if they're getting them tested more than having vaccines? Apparently, what are they saying about the vaccine then? And I mean, I'm not saying anything bad. I took it. Did I do it willingly? No, but
Yeah.
I mean,
But you have to.
But I had to. But my thing is, why are you now requiring us to get tested? Why? So my thing is, would it have been more effective to test people all the time? Would that have been more effective? Who knows? Why are you making us do it when we go into, like, Portugal, right? You need to get it when you get in there, and you need to get it when you come back to the U.S. But you're fully vaccinated. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at things common sense.
Yeah, you need to get tested here before you go, and then before you come back, you need to get tested again. So, and we are on the last seconds of the show. One more time, we came to Portugalia, not to Portugal, but to Portugalia to tape this week's show. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. John, thank you again.
Thank you.
And we see you next week.